In April this year. For a country that's dumping immigrants into Rwanda, that is rich. You already know about Johnson's plan. His government wants to get rid of asylum seekers, so they ship them off, fly them off more like, all the way to Rwanda, some 6,500 kilometers away from London. What would it cost Britain? Some money and a one-way ticket for these immigrants. The first flight was supposed to leave on Tuesday. It did not. Quite a dramatic twist there. Look at the pictures on your screen. The migrants had boarded the plane. It was on the tarmac, all set to depart, but the flight never took off. All thanks to the European Court of Human Rights. It stopped the deportation at the very last minute. The lawyers of these immigrants had gone to the European Court. They stopped the departure of the plane, and now the legality of this entire proposal will be tested. Can Britain dump asylum seekers into Rwanda? Does this violate international law? These are the questions being debated, apart from the moral ones, of course. And this is where it leaves Boris Johnson. Last week, he barely managed to survive a leadership test. This week, his deportation plan has backfired. Let's begin with what happened yesterday and what a spectacular failure it was for London. More than 10,000 illegal migrants, more than 10,000, have entered Britain this year. The UK identified 130 people to deport, 130. Eventually, only 7 of them could be put on a flight, just 7. What about the others? Well, they went to court, they challenged the orders, and they managed to get their deportation overturned. But 7 out of 130 got no relief from British courts. Who are these people? 3 Iranians, 1 Syrian, 1 Albanian, 1 Iraqi, and 1 Vietnamese citizen. The United Kingdom wanted to make an example out of these people, so it arranged a massive plane, a plane that can accommodate 200 people. The British government hired it to transport just 7 migrants. Perhaps they were desperate to show how well their plan works. Well, it did not. The European Court intervened at the last moment. The migrants had sought relief from this court and they got it. The European Human Rights Court has raised several questions about Britain's policy. It wants to know if Rwanda is a safe country for migrants, and how easily the migrants can be called back if something goes wrong. So the Rwanda plan is now caught in a legal tangle. The next hearing will be in July. It will decide the future of this policy. But Britain seems undeterred. India wants to trade more with Russia. India wants to go beyond importing oil. India wants to export goods to Russia. Quick question. What do countries need to trade with each other? Fundamentally 2 things. Trading routes, which is a way to move the goods, and banking channels, a way to pay for those goods. Western sanctions have completely disrupted the traditional way of doing business with Russia. Key Russian banks are no longer connected to the global banking network. The war has also affected movement of goods. So how will India do business with Russia? By building its own mechanisms. There is no other way. And that's exactly what India is up to. First, the trade routes. India already has an alternative in place. It is called the International North-South Transport Corridor, INSTC. This is basically a shipping route. It connects Russia to India via Iran. It can be used by Russia to export goods to India, and vice versa, for India to export goods to Russia. This route is currently being tested. Russia recently dispatched a consignment from St. Petersburg. There were 2 containers of wood laminates that were dispatched. After leaving St. Petersburg, the shipment will transit through 3 stops. The first one is the Caspian port of Astrakhan. The second is the Iranian port of Anzali. And from here the shipment will be loaded onto the trucks. It will be moved via road to the 3rd stop, which is the Bandar Abbas port. This is on the Strait of Hormuz. Here the consignment will be loaded again on a ship. It will be delivered to India in Mumbai. This entire journey will take less than 25 days. Earlier, such a delivery from Russia to India took nearly 40 days. So once this route is operational, it will be the fastest way to move goods between Russia and India. It can effectively replace the Suez Canal route. So we have a trade route in place. What about banking channels? India has a plan for that too. It can pay Moscow in rupees for Indian goods. Here's what New Delhi can do. Right now, India has some deposits in Russian banks, the VTB Bank and the Spare Bank of Russia. Both are state-controlled banks. How much money does India have in these banks? About $2 billion. It's in Indian rupees, $2 billion. This can be used to pay for Russian imports. A team of Russian officials is visiting New Delhi. A plan could be finalized soon. Earlier, a rupee-ruble trading mechanism was being considered. But those plans might not work out because there's extreme volatility when it comes to the Russian currency. The ruble is highly volatile. So there is a possibility that all transactions between Russia and India could be done in the rupee moving forward. India needs a permanent paying system with Russia. It wants to boost its trade with Russia, especially exports. The total value of bilateral trade stands at over $13 billion. India's trade deficit with Russia is $6.61 billion, meaning India imports more than it exports.